in terms of the trade talks, I think anytime you play professional sports, there's always a possibility of something happening, right? Well, I think there was a lot of confusion, and everybody was saying that I requested a trade, and that wasn't true. So we made it clear that I did not request a trade. I did not request a trade. I've always wanted to play here. Well, I think there's a lot of confusion because the reality is that I forget. I think I was in the Bahamas or somewhere, and everybody was saying that I requested a trade, and that wasn't true. So we made it clear that I did not request a trade. And then there was teams being flown around that I was going to go to those teams, this and that. And so, I think that when you look back at it, it's part of. I don't know. It's part of it, unfortunately.
With the comments you made about the offensive line and being frustrated with getting hit, some people have taken that as maybe criticism of the offensive line. Did you mean that as sort of a direct criticism of the offensive line in general?
Not at all about the offensive line. I think that I also mentioned that the reality is that I can do better too.
That was Russell Wilson from last Thursday. Miles Simmons and I talked about it on Friday. Look. He didn't request a trade, Chris, because he didn't have to.
I mean, yes.
It wasn't until his encounter with Santa Claus that Ralphie officially requested a Red Ryder carbine action range model air rifle with a compass in the stock and this thing that tells time. He didn't have to. He made it known that that's what he wanted. We all know he wanted to be traded. He never had to show up at Pete Carroll's door and bang on it and say, I demand that you trade me. His agent came out and said, my client doesn't want to be traded, but if he were to be traded, he would accept trades to the Bears, Saints, Cowboys, and or Raiders. So I look, I didn't have a big problem with it because I knew he had to do it at some point. He's all about going out and trying to make chicken salad, and he's stuck in a place where he hasn't been satisfied in recent years. He's going to make the best of it because this is one more crack at building the legacy he wants to build. He's got one Super Bowl win in 9 seasons, just like Aaron Rodgers with 1 and Patrick Mahomes with 1. He's going to do everything he can to get it to number 2 this year. And after this year, that's when it all gets dusted off again, and he won't request a trade, but it'll be obvious that he would love to have a trade to a new team.
Yeah, well, I mean, gosh, there's so many things. I mean, first off, he's smart enough to know, like, at that time, he did not say the exact words of I request a trade or anything like that. He sent out every signal in the world to, like what you're saying, to say that. I mean, come on. It's insane. It's a little crazy he's gotten away with it to the degree of what he got away with. It tells you about the charm he has. Really, come on. No starting quarterback's really thrown their team under the bus quite to the capacity that Russell Wilson did after the season. He threw everybody under the bus. And he grins and smiles, and he talks good, and his eyes move everywhere in the press conference because he doesn't want to be any tells or anything like that. But, like, come on, that's what he did. I mean, he went scorched earth as far as a starting quarterback's concerned on his own franchise. Kind of let it be known of all the issues that he didn't like about the football team. Yes, and obviously, I mean, we know the Bears went all in on trading for Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks. So they didn't go all in because they went, well, this is just rumors, and Florio and Simms are talking about it, so let's just call them and put up a trade offer, but it's not really real. Like, come on, get the hell out of here. They knew that Russell Wilson wanted out and was willing to go to Chicago. They've talked to his agent. They put a trade package together. Come on. Like, that's bull crap. So he could say whatever he wants and blah, 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 blah. But we know that he was forcing the issue this offseason to a degree. And, yes, didn't happen. So now the toothpaste is back in the toothpaste holder. And he'll make, like you said, the best out of the situation for right now. But, yeah, I expect some of the same comments when the season's over next year.
And that's the difference between him and Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Now, Rodgers has been dealing with his frustration and disrespect longer than Wilson. And it's not like the Seahawks have gone out and drafted Wilson's potential replacement. But Wilson recognizes, I want another Super Bowl, and staying away from OTAs or mandatory minicamp does not help me get there. There's a certain point where I have to swallow my pride and I have to be all in because this is my only shot.
Yeah.
It's either play for the Seahawks or not play. I want to play. Yeah, I'd like to play for someone else. I'd like to play for an offense that runs through me. I'd like to play for an offensive coordinator who's a little more diverse in the formations and the efforts to stay ahead of the defense. And I'd rather not have a head coach who, if he gets freaked out by a couple of bad games, all of a sudden wants to go back to meat and potatoes and not do anything imaginative that allows me to show what I can do. He'd prefer all those things, but he's stuck where he is. And so he's there, he's engaged, he's going to say all the right things because the goal is get to the Super Bowl and win it. And if they do, great. If they don't make it, they haven't been to the NFC Championship since 2014. If they don't get back to at least the game to get to the Super Bowl, I fully expect all this to be back front and center next year. And it could be not just Aaron Rodgers being traded after the season, but Rodgers and Wilson and maybe Deshaun Watson.
Now, what do you think, though, like, if they get back to the divisional playoff game, but it has a different look this year, right? Like, Russell Wilson, the offense are explosive. He's got great numbers, things like that. Everything looks on the up and up. Like, I don't know. That's one scenario I wonder what he would do there. Because, like to what you're saying, first off, there's worse places to be stuck. And you do have DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. We talked about last week. It's one of the better duos in football. I mean, it's up there towards the top of the league. Those guys are difference makers. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting this year because I do think they're going to have more of a schematical advantage on the offensive side of the ball with the new offense. We heard the comments last week, right, from Russell Wilson where he was like, the offense is super complicated. Yeah, because he's doing stuff that he's never done. He doesn't know what he doesn't know. So this is going to be fun to see what Shane Waldron can add.
And that's the key. The key to this is Shane Waldron.
Yeah.
What will he do to make the offense less predictable? What will he do to avoid what we saw last year when it was let Russ cook until the defenses could figure out the recipe and they didn't counter it effectively? And that's what freaked out Pete Carroll. Can Waldron do enough wire to wire, week 1 through week 18 and into the postseason to make Russ say, damn, they're finally doing what I've wanted. The offense is running through me, and it's great, and it works, and that's going to be the tension. That's going to be the focal point.
Right.
Will Pete Carroll allow Shane Waldron to go out and take over? And you know what? I don't want to get too far ahead of myself here. Now, I'm going to save it for another day. I'm not going to say.
Oh, that's not even fair. You can't do that. It's not allowed. That's like against football TV code.
Okay, let's say the offense ends up being spectacular.
Right.
And we start hearing Shane Waldron as a potential head coach.
I know where you're
somewhere else.
Yeah.
At what point
come with me, Russ.
For the Seahawks. No.
Oh.
At what point does ownership of the Seahawks say it's time for Pete to go?
Oh.
I know they just signed him to an extension. But if you're faced with Waldron and Wilson versus Pete and whoever, the dominoes can fall in all sorts of crazy ways. And we know, and this is one of the problems of having a defensive head coach. If you have a great offense, you're going to lose your coordinator, and you have to go find another one. And then you have a great offense again, you're going to lose that one, and he's going to go be a head coach. And if it works with Waldron and Russ to the point where Waldron becomes a head coach, then maybe it's Russ goes with Waldron, or maybe it's Waldron becomes the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. I guess we just have to be keeping an eye on all that. That's what I wasn't going to say and officially haven't said.
Yeah, well, it's not a crazy thought. I mean, it's not. I don't think we're there yet. I don't, at least, just with the Seattle Seahawks. Pete Carroll, he's too damn special still.
That's the other thing, too. So. If he falls into the Mike Tomlin category, where if the Seahawks would decide it's time to move on, Carroll's going to have a job by the end of the day.
100%.
He's going to have a job by lunchtime.
Also, like one of those things to where I think it's like, Pete Carroll's got a way with people and guys, too, where I think, somebody else goes up there, they may be like, whoa, there's a few more characters and personalities and things going on here than I thought. That's where Pete's special that way. So, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I don't think we're there yet. Man, Waldron sets the world on fire, and Russ sets the world on fire on that offensive side of the ball. Yeah, it could be interesting to see what happens up there in Seattle.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.